Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Indie Film Cafe. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got an awesome, fun show with you. I've got my co-host,
Paul A. Presenza, otherwise known as the Moo Cow. Moo.
and we've got a special guest who has never been on the show before yet, but this is her first time. Please introduce yourself, ma'am.
Hello, everybody. I am Amanda Megan. You should know me from Night of the Axe with Sean Wright, and I recently directed Anna Key.
Yes, I'm really excited about that one.
So are we.
Yeah. So I asked Amanda, and I was pretty sure she had never seen this movie before. And this movie we're going to be talking about is the 2004 film Decoys. So I'm really excited to talk about it. And I know, Paul, have you seen this movie before?
Yeah.
Okay, you had seen it before. Okay.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure. Okay.
Like
Well,
every other guy of a certain age, I got sucked in by the promises of hot chicks.
pretty much. Pretty much. But we'll talk about that soon after we come back from some
Mood music.
music. And we are back. Yes. So I would like to hear everybody's thoughts on this movie, starting with Amanda. Amanda, as you said, this is your first time, right?
Yeah, it was a first time watch for me. I actually didn't even know that it was a movie till we were talking about doing this review. So
You didn't even know it existed
I
until.
did not know.
So tell us a little bit, like, did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? What did you think?
I actually really did enjoy it. I liked the camera work. I liked the script. I liked the story. I liked there were times where it was a little cheesy,
Right.
but considering the content, I mean, you kind of had to be a little bit. Um,
Exactly. What were you gonna say?
I don't remember, so.
All right. And what about you, Paul?
So yeah, it was one that I had seen before and did not include in my collection, if that gives you an idea. Yeah, to me, it was kind of a dumb movie, just dumb as a box of rocks, and just unbelievable characters doing unbelievable things. I think the strengths lie in the fact that the productions were pretty good for the most part. Even some of the cheesy special effects were actually handled pretty well for 2004. Some of the performances I thought were good, and Amanda's right. Some of the camera work was actually pretty good. The main issue I had was with the story itself, in that it was just a brain dead movie. I mean, don't think about it. This is one of those movies you have to turn your brain to duh in order to just get through it. And it just
Get through it, man.
that kind of movie is I find myself having very little patience for. I mean, when I was 21, sure, I could just be happy by looking at hot chicks and not care about anything else. But now that I'm older and I have more taste, I that kind of thing just doesn't float it for me anymore. So
All right. Well, this is actually, interestingly enough, this is a first time watch for me. I owned it for a while, and I have a DVD that has part 1 and 2. Yes, they made a sequel,
There's a second one?
which doesn't make any sense.
No.
Paul said. So I want to explain something. I thought Paul liked this movie before, because when I talked to Paul and I showed him, I got parts 1 and 2 from it was a double feature disc from Second and Charles. I said, "Here, look," and he goes, "Oh wow, they made part 2," and like kind of like that, and he didn't give me any idea.
and I should have said, "Oh my God, they made part two."
They made 2 of them. That's generally what he says. So when he didn't say it like that, that confused me a little bit.
Gotcha. I mean, I can definitely see his point there. Like I said, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, I like looking at beautiful women too. It was a nice touch, but I'm also not a teenage boy, so I can see how the story fell flat for a lot of people. It did get kind of crazy, not like crazy. I don't even know what the right word would be like towards the end when they're trying to I don't feel like they did a good wrap up, a good explanation of things. I was surprised by how well the special effects were done. I was impressed by that. I kind of felt like it was like a cheesy Hallmark love story with aliens.
That's a good example of it. Yeah, that I would go by that. And I like the Lifetime cheesy Hallmark shit.
Mhm.
So I don't know,
With a
it's
little
kind of
bit more sort of cringy testosterone overtones, like
Mhm.
getting the girl to plant the camera in the girl's shower. Like,
Yeah.
that's
well,
creepy.
she agreed. I
I
mean,
know
she
she
said
did.
no, and she
Well,
agreed
we
because she
find out
liked him, I
why.
guess.
We find out why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we find out. Yeah, we do because yeah, but
We do find out.
we'll get more into that when we get into the story. I do want
Spoilers.
a little background on it. It was directed and I believe co-written by a guy named Matthew Hastings. Matthew
Never
uh
heard of that guy.
yeah, interestingly enough, he was a executive producer of Vampire Diaries
Huh.
and the originals.
I think most of these folks were all Canadians, as I recall.
Right. And
Well, they filmed
CW.
it in New Brunswick, wasn't it?
Hmm?
Didn't it take place in New Brunswick, like the
Yes.
film?
Yeah.
Yep. And they talk about how like, oh man, you're an alien attacking, coming into Canada and stuff like that. They were kind of making little jabs at Canada
I was
themselves.
confused. I remember when I was younger because I always thought you would think Brunswick stew came from like New Brunswick, but that apparently is not the case.
I don't think so. So he directed, let's see. So he produced a bunch of stuff. This Matthew Things guy, and he directed a few episodes of the originals, Siren, a lot of the, like I said, CW shows, and a lot of Canadian television shows like Alphas and Warehouse
It
13.
had kind of a Canadian sci-fi feel to it, Sci-Fi Channel, except
Yeah,
for the boob shots, But then, who knows? In Canada, you might get some boob shots for TV for cable over there. I don't know,
I don't think so,
but
but
that's what it felt like. It felt like a sci-fi show.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then so he made Decoys after doing some TV, and then he went back to TV pretty much afterwards. And then let's see, so then it was starring Corey. I'm gonna butcher his name, but Severe. I don't know how you say his name, but I saw his face and I go, he looks very familiar, you know. And to me, he looked like he was in like a David Dakota film or something, who's also Canadian. So kind of would make sense.
One of the 666 movies.
No, I think because he was earlier, because he got a start earlier than that.
Wouldn't surprise
Um,
me though.
no, I wouldn't be
And he
surprised.
walked around with his shirt off a lot.
I know. It
Yeah,
almost
a
felt like
lot.
a David Dakota movie.
So I
Yeah,
bet you David Dakota watched this.
I'm glad he did. Yeah, he had never acted in a David Dakota movie. He's Decoys, I think, was his biggest thing that he started on, and then
Oh
he was on
God.
the there was an Aquaman TV show they tried to do years ago that just fell through. And it was Aquaman, of course, without a shirt on, all this other stuff. I guess Canadians like their shirts off. He also was in the sequel, by the way. So he plays Luke and he was in the sequel, which makes no sense if you watch the ending of the movie,
Nope.
right? Like it shouldn't have happened. Lily, who I guess was one of the bad girls. She was played by Stephanie Von Fedden. I don't know. I think that's how you say it. She's been in a lot of Canadian television shows and movies, including like was it that DC's Legends of Tomorrow for an episode, When Calls the Heart, Day of the Dead TV show. I forgot they made that. They made a whole Day of the Dead TV show, which I don't think it did very well.
Yeah, I kind of thought she was kind of meh. I liked Constance better.
And Constance was played by Kim Poirier. She was in Dawn of the Dead, the remake with James
Mhm.
Gunn. That
Okay.
she was also, she had the last project she did was a movie called No Solicitors, which had like Felissa Rose and Eric Roberts and bunch of people.
Let's
Yeah.
sign her up. I liked her. I thought she gave the best performance because she was one of the few characters I actually cared about.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a very dynamic character. There was actually like depth to her.
Yep.
Yeah. She I liked her a lot more than, then there was Roger, played by Elias Tufexis. He was like the best friend to Luke, your
Yeah,
roommate.
I
Oh,
recognized him. He's got to be in. He was in a few things, hasn't he?
the virginal best friend.
He was in like
Yeah.
some Star Trek Discovery episodes.
Okay.
He was in a TV show called Pluto. He's in a lot of it looks like a lot of what is it, sci-fi, like Star Trek kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
He was in an episode of Criminal Minds, some video games. He was in 2 episodes of Shadowhunters, which is Canadian. So yeah. So he's been in some
Oh,
stuff.
not John Johnson's Shadowhunters.
No, completely different one. Megan Ori played his best friend Alex.
I liked her
Okay.
too.
Yeah, she was sweet.
Yeah.
Um, she was in, let's see, The Secret Gift of Christmas. She's been in some Lifetime movies now. Another show called Chesapeake Shores. Interesting.
Interesting.
Didn't even know that was a thing. And I think it's Canadian. So I'm like, like
Interesting.
She played Red Riding Hood in the Once Upon a Time TV series. So she's done some good stuff for herself.
Okay. That was one of my favorite series. That's probably where I recognized her from.
She was also in Supernatural,
Yes.
in an episode. So my favorite TV show. So, all right. And then my other favorite guy was Ennis Esmer, who played, I forgot what was his name? Silly name, Gibby.
Gibby.
He wanted to be called Gibby, even though his name was what, like Nicholas or something?
Nathan.
Nathan. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I couldn't stand that dude. I was glad he got killed.
well, he was in another Canadian LA show called LA Complex. And because I saw him and I go, I know that guy from somewhere. So I looked him up and I was like, oh my God, that's the dude from there. That's where I know him from. And he did really good in that. Like I enjoyed him. He got to work with Shalon Simmons a lot in that.
And don't forget, for a hot minute, we got Nicole Eggert, who was, I guess she must have been about 40, and they implied that she was like the former girlfriend of this 20-year-old or 19-year-old kid. And I'm like, wait a second, maybe that's his mom?
No, it didn't make any sense whatsoever.
No.
So my mom actually watched this with me, and afterwards she was like, I don't understand what that relationship was.
Yeah.
I don't either, because like apparently they broke up or something,
The whole
Something.
thing feels very first drafty, it really
And it
does.
felt really weird because, okay, first of all, she's a detective, and
It felt, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
It felt very much to me like it was one of those, I need a small role so I can throw somebody big name into it. You know what I mean? Like one of those cameo kind of like roles.
She doesn't even
Yeah.
really do very much or say very much. She's just sort of there as eye candy, but at least she wasn't like incredibly offensively horrific like the guy who was the actual detective, and he's like, go puppy, 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 puppy,
Oh,
puppy.
yeah.
Like, man, if you say puppy one more time, I'm gonna stick my fist down your throat.
Yeah,
So
he's a little
I hated
annoying.
that guy.
Yeah, he was my least favorite character in the whole movie. I even like the macho guy that dies first better than
The
that
hockey guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nicole Eggert, if most people know her from like Charles in Charge or Baywatch or stuff like that. We'll probably do more movies because she's done some indie films that I love, so that'll probably happen on Indie Film Cafe. But it was sort of a phone in, role
Yeah.
because she sort of didn't have anything to do except shoot, later.
And I don't want to imply that a 40-year-old woman can't date a 19-year-old dude. I mean, that's great. Congrats. It's just, it seemed unlikely and nothing got fleshed out. And it just felt like someone screwed up in the script and they didn't realize it, or if they did, they just didn't care because they had nowhere else to put Nicole Eggert and they already hired her. So yeah.
She could have played like the lead, girl of the killer people. Like they could have
Or
had her.
like the house mother or something.
Right. The
Yeah.
house mother, they could have expanded that role
Well,
instead of being a
that
drunk.
role was interesting, and stuff. Like I thought there was going to be some expansion to it, but they didn't do anything with it. It just kind of was like, all right, we're concentrating more on this dude and less on the other stuff that seems like they need, that they're putting in there.
Or if it had been me, I'd have given her the role of the coroner because at least he gets a couple scenes and he gets to explain some stuff, although I don't quite believe it. But, at least it's a good speaking role and it's kind of there to move the plot along and it gives some background information and some fake plausibility about what's going on. But at least it's got some dialogue and it's believable. And for her age, she could pull it off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just this other role that, I mean, you could have plugged in anybody really.
Yeah. So, Amanda, a lot of times we let the guests kind of describe the storyline of it and everything. Would you be able to take a stab at that?
I can certainly try. Do I need to be like spoiler free, or can I just like go to town? Like, what are the rules here?
Go
Feel
to
free.
town. Say whatever
Okay.
you want.
So the basic plot of Decoys is that an alien species basically invades Canada and they are trying to save their species through intercourse with male college students.
Pretty
As you
much.
do.
That's really all it that's what it comes down to.
Except they can't survive it because for whatever reason it's incredibly cold for them to impregnate a human and most of the men don't survive. I would love to have seen an example of some that did because that implies that there's some kind of alien human hybrid running around, but you're not going to see that in a movie like this. So
No, I thought for sure they were gonna have that one survivor at the end, and then they didn't.
Yeah.
I was hoping for the upset.
I was
yeah.
hoping that one dude was going to survive the thing and going to be able to impregnate the girl or whatever,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And I thought that would have been cool because I didn't mind him, the character, the roommate guy. I think he was the typical jock, beer guzzling, jerk. But I like that they made him the virgin instead of
Yes.
like a girl the virgin. Like I feel like it swapped it a little bit.
They
Which,
did, and I really enjoyed that.
yeah, it's kind of a neat little thing because you don't really see that much. You usually see the girl, unless the virgin is like prey to the girls or something, they need
Mhm.
the virgin's blood, that kind
Right.
of thing.
Well, if anything, I think the swap that was interesting to me is the fact that the females were, because they're aliens, are all extremely aggressive about sex and about, getting on with these guys. And the guys are the ones who are like, oh, wait, they're the ones who are not quite sure how to conduct themselves and how they should feel and are very, very thrown off by it. And, I kind of like that because that's the sort of thing you generally don't see.
Well, I guess the guys are supposed to be like the nerdy guys, or whatever, but
I don't know that you can really say that they're all nerdy because what was her name? Lily? Wasn't she with the jock guy in first?
yeah,
But
she, what?
I do agree that I like the like how they flipped it and how it was more the females that were aggressive about it and how was the men that were kind of like trying to back off. I liked
Although
seeing the difference.
clearly not all of them because Amanda wasn't like that. And I called shenanigans on that because they implied that there was some kind of a friendship or relationship there already between those two, which means they had to have known each other longer rather than 2 minutes, which is, you could understand him, not knowing anything about him. He should know something about her, at least enough to know that she's an actual human being. And then when it turns out she's an alien, I'm like, oh, shenanigans. even though it was obviously leading up to that. I just,
Oh, you're talking about the best friend girl?
yeah,
Yeah, because well, I saw it coming because they did
yeah.
mention at one point that there was somebody who came and checked the Earth out before, kind of scouted the Earth and everything. And I'm like, that's the friend that he's had for a while, but that they've never done anything because they just viewed each other as friends or something,
And
or like,
then remember, she goes to the party and she's hanging out with them with the blonde, alien chicks. The blonde alien chicks completely ignore her like she's a human being, you know?
no, I think that was their point. I think they didn't want anybody to catch on to her, if anything, that way she could do stuff like screw up the computer or whatever, the camera when it was recording, or she could, what I mean? She could do all these things to like mess everything up. So you think she's human, the whole
Well,
time.
right. She's there. I mean, they do that to fool the audience, but there's really no reason for them to do that to fool the characters. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
They could be just the same with her as they do with all the other females, and nobody would pick that up. Nobody would understand that. But we would understand that. So they're doing it to fool us and not the characters. And that's another thing that I call shenanigans on.
what did you think of that, Amanda?
There was a part where I thought that it was going to be the detective that was what did they call them? The hunter, the scout, or whatever.
Yeah. You thought it was
Yeah,
going
so
to
I,
be a Pale Scout?
Hey, Nicole
I did.
Ecker could have been the one who came first. That would have been interesting. She's a little
Mhm.
bit older. That would have broadened her role. And plus, God forbid, I would have loved to have seen her kill that idiot detective that she worked with.
Yeah,
That would have been great. In my rewrite of this movie, that's what happens.
So yeah, what were you gonna say, Amanda?
I just that I agreed with him that I thought it would have been really cool to see the female detective as the scout. Dude, that male detective, man, I wanted him to die.
And he never does. All the other, guys or whatever, Gibby does, Gibby
That makes it
dies.
even more painful. Is that the worst character in the entire movie? Probably the most irritating character I've seen in a film in probably 5 or 6 years. And yeah, and he's the one
That's
that lives.
ouch, man. And you
Tell us
just
how you
sex
really feel.
squad, you know.
Awful.
And that's the thing with this movie is I mean, it's a very serious movie, but it's still it has some comedy to it,
I
you
was
know.
going to ask about that because part of it seems serious and then part of it is like ridiculous comedy. And I'm like, there are some strange tonal shifts going on here, where it comes off serious and then like the doctor's like, poking on the guy's face, the frozen guy, and saying all kinds of weird stuff. And I'm like, is this a cartoon?
Yeah, that scene with him and the detective was the weirdest scene I've ever seen
Yes.
in a film. He's trying to explain like what happened so that the audience will know, but then he's like poking and he's saying all these things, and then it seemed like there was a blocking issue or something where the guy was in his way and did not seem like it was in the script. It felt like the dude was actually in his way at one point and he was like, "Excuse me." And like walked out and I was like, this has just got weird a little bit, like it felt like
Yeah.
what did I just watch?
And I didn't understand the whole puppy, why he kept calling him puppy. Like I understand he's supposed to be like this big, aggressive, like detective, but I didn't like it. I didn't think that was necessary.
No, I guess he was trying to say because the kid was young, that
I
he was a
mean,
Maybe.
puppy.
there could have been some subtext going on where the male detective had a thing for the female detective, but he, I guess because of this relationship that these two had, that he doesn't like him. But that again, I mean, a guy who looks like he's 40 should not care about a guy who's 19 and their girlfriend. You know what I mean? It's just
But there was
weird.
never any there was never any talk about that at all.
No.
Like if there was a scene where at least one of the guys says, I can't believe you dated her, blah blah blah, like all this stuff and whatever, right? I can understand that, but there was literally no talk or mention. So you have no idea why this guy just automatically doesn't like him.
Like the friend implies it, but he doesn't say it. So
Right.
I get the feeling that, like I said, this felt very first drafty, and that maybe it was something they were going to come back to later, and they just didn't. They're like, well, we'll just, you know what I mean? They
Nobody
just
will
kind of
care.
scrubbed around it.
Yeah, nobody will care.
One of those.
We
We'll
got
fix it
a
in post, and then we don't fix it.
we got a schedule to keep. Let's just keep rolling.
I like that, Amanda. We will fix it in post, then we won't fix it. Then we don't fix it.
Oh, we've had that in our share of films on Indie Film Cafe. That's for
We
sure.
say we'll fix it in post, but then
I
again,
mean,
we do usually fix it.
I'll give this movie this. At least it actually had snow. It actually had a real winter when they said they were in winter. When they said it was cold, they actually had ice and snow.
Yeah,
There are
that was one
movies,
of the things that I was like, how did they do that?
there are movies where we've seen it where they insist that there's snow and there's ice and there's winter and there's none.
Nope. There's Blood Predator is our favorite one to mention because it was a movie where a dude was on a snowmobile with no snow on the
All grass.
grass.
What,
He was
Blood
on,
Predators? I'm gonna have to watch that one.
Yes.
you can find it. Definitely check it out. It's really stupid.
I call it the evil crickets from outer space.
Oh boy. Okay. That good, huh?
That's a better title than Blood Predators, to be honest.
So silly.
It
We'll
was
write
it
that
was
down over here.
terrible. But I mean, the thing with this movie was, like you said, I think, Paul, like that it was a sort of movie that looked like it was made for sci-fi. Almost felt like it could be a pilot for a TV show if they had, you know what I mean? Like had really didn't like finish it, or whatever. They could have made it where it's about, these aliens coming to town and these people have to deal with it. It could have made a really cool TV show
Except for
where
the
it's a
boob shots.
continued thing.
Basically just describes Smallville.
Pretty much. It's
Yeah.
Smallville with aliens, like more
Yeah.
aliens. I guess technically Superman is an alien, but
More aliens.
you know, but like with more female aliens,
Mhm.
But yeah, it was, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of my kind of movie. I would like to see the sequel just to see where they go with it. But like, this is my type of movie, and this is not Paul's type of movie. And so when I started watching it, I go, yeah, I can see Paul doesn't like this movie.
Yeah, you love movies where it's all a universe of teenagers and dealing with teenage stuff, and all the adults are either jerks or incompetent, and I can't stand that. I'm an adult, so I don't want to see that. But even when I was a teenager, I didn't like teenage movies. So
Yeah, I mean, I grew up on Dawson's Creek and later on like Vampire Diaries and Supernatural. So, that kind of stuff feels more like, what this was trying to be, but I don't know. I still kind of enjoyed it. It was fun, but it's pretty bad if you like look at it in the, like,
yeah, I mean, it's
what
not Blood Predator bad. Like I said, there's a lot of decent production in it. I liked a lot of the sets. I liked a lot of the lighting. I liked some of the music. I thought the direction was brisk enough that it wasn't dull. It's just the story was very, very, very sort of unfinished and ill-formed and just blah.
So the character Gibby, what was his point?
He's a
Like,
brotard. He's like your standard brotard dude.
but was he just basically alien food? Like,
I don't feel like his character had a purpose. I feel like he was supposed to be like some sort of comic relief or something, and just another baby daddy, basically.
Yeah, they need extra victims, so someone's got to get at. He's one.
Yeah, he kind of like his character, because like, yeah, they kept trying to call him Nathan, and then that one girl called him Nathan, and he was like, oh, Nathan, right? Like, he couldn't say, call me Gibby, to the chick, because he knew he was gonna get laid, and everything, which was interesting. She had sex with him in a mausoleum.
Yeah, they were in the
Like
mausoleum.
that happens.
Yeah. So he opened his eyes after having it closed, and he's in his cemetery, and he was like, you're you're sick, but I like it, you know.
Hmm.
And I was like, this would be my my detection level. I'd be like, like,
Oh yeah, red
yeah, I
flags
think it might go this
everywhere,
way.
everywhere, and nobody notices them. Even our main guy, he sees the chick with the damn, tentacles coming out of her chest, but he still goes and like dances with her and kisses her and does all this other shit. I'm like, what
Hmm.
the fuck? Are you kidding me? How stupid are you?
Well, Gibby dies, and then later the was it the detective? We find out that apparently the detective found him, but they never mentioned at all, like they never show a scene where the cops are over there picking up his body where he's frozen to death again from the inside. Like this should be
But
something that's like on their radars of like, okay, who is doing this and why? How
And
is this happening? Yes.
how I want to hear this detective where he's like, oh, I've got this dude, I'm going to prove he did it. Okay, Mr. Genius, exactly how does a human being freeze another human being from the inside out as a murder? I want you to explain how that happens. You can't, because it's impossible, because it's stupid.
It wasn't stupid for the aliens. It made sense for what they did.
Sure, but he didn't know that.
Yeah, he didn't know that. But yeah, it was stupid for him to like say, "Why is this guy? He just picked this kid who, it just made him the,
He
whatever."
just had this massive hard on for him, and beyond all logic. It's just another example of just unbelievable stuff happening.
Yeah,
shenanigans, right?
shenanigans. That's
Shenanigans.
that's all Paul calls. You know. Um. So Amanda, what was your favorite part of this movie?
Um, so I really enjoyed the little twist at the end when you find out that the best friend is more of the alien. Again, you could kind of see it coming, but it was still like a fun little, like, hey, surprise, but not really surprise. But I also really enjoyed how the little like tentacles burst out of their like little chests. Like I don't know how they pulled that off, but it looked pretty good considering the time frame and like their budgets and everything. When we watched it, my mom goes, "Have you seen the movie Tingler with Vincent Price?"
There
She
you
was
go.
like, "Look, it's a Tingler."
They kind of
Classic.
have like a little bit like the Tingler. I just watched that for the first time last year, so
Nice.
I loved it.
Somebody actually set it up back home way years ago, back in the '80s, when I was at the State Theater in Newark, and somebody actually set it up so that you got these little clickers, and so there was like a thing, and when it came on the screen, you were all supposed to click it because back in the '50s when they did it, they were supposed to put a little shock in your seat. You're not allowed to do that now, of
Well,
course, but that was Castle's Tingler effect, to give people a little zap. So instead, they gave you those little cricket clicker things, and that's how you were supposed to simulate that.
That's awesome. So somebody did that for the Tingler, or was it for like another movie?
No, it was for the Tingler. They handed them out.
Okay, so you had to like tingle yourself.
Yeah,
That sounds really weird, but just saying.
many
Tingle.
years of
you
being
might want
used
to
to that,
rephrase
my
that
friend.
stuff.
A lot of experience.
I don't know. There's some really fun for me, and I'll get to Paul. I mean, what your favorite stuff was? I agree. Sort of the tentacles and special effects were pretty cool. I don't know, and I like the whole ice stuff, like that the
Mhm.
everything and of course the only way to defeat them is through fire, or whatever.
Right.
But then they throw the steaming hot boiling water on that one chick and nothing happens. So like was
Mhm.
she like not one of them, I guess? Is that the
That's what
idea?
I got from it, that she wasn't one of them. But I think that she knew. I also really liked how like their true form was like super leathery and like super like ugly. Like I liked that too.
Yeah, it sort of had like a shadow monster kind of
Mhm.
like look to it or whatever, and I thought that was pretty cool.
I think
Uh,
my favorite time was when the annoying chick with the braces got punched in the face, and then she's like, "You hit me in my mouth."
That was that was one of the comedic bits. That whole fight scene was so comedic and it was
Mhm.
weird. It like threw me off a little bit. Like, wait, am I watching the same movie? Because that was like one of the funny, like one of the bits that became comedic, and I'm just like, the rest of it was sort of more serious. Like
Sure,
even
it was
them
weird.
meeting the girls. Now, okay, I got very confused, and maybe you guys can explain this to me. When they go down to drink beers in the laundromat, because that's what you do if you're a guy, and it, made no sense to me whatsoever. Apparently, they just got drunk in the laundry room. The two guys were there, right, for a while together. Did one of them leave at some
Yeah.
point? Why did he
Yeah.
leave when two girls walk in?
Well, he left before the girls walked in. So the virgin friend had left. I don't know why. I don't remember why he left, but he had
I
left
know
and the other
why.
guy was there. And then the girls came in.
Right. He left because the screen or the script demands that he do so that he's alone, so that he can be the person who sees them first, and that, they leave the quarters so that he can go back and give it back to them, and then he can witness what they really are and then conveniently ignore it.
So basically, he
Um,
left because there was a plot hole in the script.
yes.
I
Yes.
mean, literally, I hate to say it, but if I'm a dude and I'm bringing back that stuff, I would, I would knock on the door. If they're not there, I would wait to give them the stuff, so
And
that.
Yeah,
Amanda,
I
maybe
went, even when I was in
maybe
college, I don't know many men that would have been brave enough to like break into anybody else's rooms.
right,
Yeah.
right. And yeah, he doesn't even knock. He just I mean, he just goes right in. But I have to ask you this, Amanda. I mean, I do not know this from a guy's point of view, but the two alien chicks when they're in the laundry thing, did you notice they were taking out their and then of course the laundry is nothing but a bunch of panties, and they had these little tongs that they were like you taking them out with tongs and putting them into the laundry basket. Is that a thing? Do women use tongs to take their laundry out?
It's definitely not a thing. I think it was supposed to portray that they can't handle the heat.
Okay,
Oh, that makes sense.
but you got to figure they've been sitting there a while. It's probably not hot
They
anymore,
probably weren't that warm. No,
No,
so it was confusing.
it
no.
was,
I just pile mine in on the basket or on the floor.
or maybe they're aliens and they don't touch human, like it's hard. I don't know.
But they were wearing clothing the whole time. Well,
That's true.
a good bit of it. So
But like, okay, so how do they get into human bodies? They ever explain that?
no, they never explained it.
Nope, nope, nope.
No. So none of that was actually ever explained. So
Mm-mm.
like I was like, wait, why do they look human? But they have like that inside of them is the creature thing, is the alien. And
Right.
they look like guys, by the way. Like, are they dudes? Like, cause when their bodies come out or whatever and they start running away in the black like figure thing,
Mhm.
they look like dudes. They look like
Yeah.
guys. Like,
This,
yeah.
I don't know if you guys ever saw a movie called The Hidden. That's with
Yeah.
Kyle MacLachlan and Michael Nouri, and it's Clu Gulager. But it's similar in that you have this alien who has to survive by turning itself, going inside of a human being, and it kind of uses it up, and then the human dies, and it has to go to another one, and it's just kind of going back and forth. And then there's this one cop trying to chase them down and figure it out. So it was a little similar to that. So I don't know if you guys had seen that, but that's kind of what it reminded me of a little bit.
No,
No,
I
I
haven't.
haven't
That
seen it.
sounds like almost the exact same movie. So I get that. Except like the idea of just changing it to cold weather because we're gonna shoot in Canada. And Amanda, you made a note before on Facebook saying that Decoys is a Christmas movie.
I sure
Ah,
did.
It sure is.
interesting.
But it's
There's so much,
also
therefore
a
it is a
Halloween
Christmas movie.
movie.
Yeah, because the very opening scene is a Halloween scene. Yeah,
Ah, so
we
then
get
it
the best
starts
of
off
both
at
worlds.
Halloween stuff, then goes to Christmas, kind of shows like the time shift or whatever.
And did you notice it was college, quote unquote, was just one series of beer drinking parties after another, after another, after another? I'm like, don't these kids ever go to class?
They did walk to class in one scene, one episode.
One part, yeah. And then but most of the time it's all about them partying and going to these like galas or whatever, these little
All the frat party, yeah.
yeah, sorority. It was a sorority party.
Yeah, but you're right, it was.
Well, which was weird because the dude says something like, "Are you guys going to the sorority party?" And I'm like, "Why are you going to a sorority party?" Like,
I
you
mean,
I
it
know?
was
mean,
their sorority, so like they would have been expected to. I wasn't in a sorority, but I'm assuming they would have been expected to be there.
Yeah.
and
Well,
it's all, what I call the Animal House effect, because anytime you have anybody or students in college, you can guarantee that it's all about quote unquote partying and beer and getting laid, because that's all that anybody ever does when they go to college in Hollywood.
Right.
Or
yeah.
Hollywood Light in this case.
It would have been interesting had one of the nerdier characters or whatever be about studying or something, you know. And I gotta
Yeah.
go pass my classes. Like nobody seemed to care about classes or school or anything. He got so obsessed with these girls. I think he didn't even probably go to class.
And the thing is, it's not like high school where you have to go. College, you go because you're paying for it. That's
Yeah.
your money that you're flushing down the toilet by going and doing nothing but, beer bongs all day long.
Or your parents' money. Because, like in the movie Dead Man on Campus, the dude's flunking all his classes. So his father comes in and, like, kind of grabs him and says, "Are you getting my money's worth?" You know, because you haven't been to class. That's what the, dean's telling me, whatever. And I'm like, okay. That's more college like than whatever. Because if you're not going to class and you're all concentrating on these women who might be aliens, or whatever, then you
I mean,
probably
yeah,
should go to class.
it's the different perspective about going to class when you have to pay for it.
Right.
Yeah, that's for sure.
If you're paying the money for it, then you can go to class if you feel like it. But
Even if you're borrowing it, you're going to have to pay that money back. So,
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
still paying for it.
right. So I could never understand. And you'd always have those few students that's all they would do is party and flunk out. And I'm like,
Hmm.
why? Money doesn't just grow on trees. You're gonna have to pay that back.
because
What a
they're young
waste.
and dumb, they don't care. Because they're going there because that's what society tells them to do.
I guess they have nothing else better to do, or they've been told they have to.
And they can get drunk at their dorms and meet new people and go to parties,
Or if
it's much
it's
easier than doing it in real life.
like in my era back in the 80s, it was like, yeah, if you didn't go to college, you pretty much went into the military. Meatballs.
Yeah, I couldn't. I was never allowed to go in the military because of my ear. So I even asked the army about it. Because I was this close
They
to
are kind of
seeing what
small.
I am. I don't think they even care. They've tried to recruit me. You know, but because I'm deaf in my left ear, they're like, nope.
Yeah, they're a little picky when it comes to that.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, if I can't hear from directions, of bombs coming on us and stuff, I can't protect people around me, or whatever, and myself. So they don't. It's a understandable thing. It's just sort of funny because like who's ever like wanting to go to the military? People do it because
No.
they have to, or whatever.
Yeah, it's a little different. There are enough people that still want to, but clearly nobody in this movie.
They all want to be in college and party and have a fun time.
Right, right.
Which
Or
is
want to have alien babies. So
that was you know what? Like again, I'm gonna say this again. I wanted him to like impregnate that chick. That would have been a cool twist. Unfortunately, he had to die because the script says so, because there has to be that really sad scene where he's like, "I am family. I'm going in there and I'm gonna
yeah,
watch my friend."
Well, and then that's the thing that annoys me is because they end up killing Constance anyway, and she did not force him to do it. He volunteered.
yeah.
She was not the villain. She really wasn't. She was the one trying to make peace and trying to explain things.
They
The
definitely
only one
gave
should
her
have
like a
survived Should have been
a
her.
martyr-esque status.
What was
Yeah.
that?
They definitely made her into like a martyr.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Unnecessary.
yeah. I wish there was, yeah, I wish that the characters had been a little bit, even the aliens had been a little bit more developed where we could understand, like, because they really tried with Constance. They tried to give her some little bit of, sympathy and stuff, and everything. Constance was,
Honestly, if I were rewriting this movie, I would write the whole thing through Constance's point of view. I think she was the best character, and I think it would have been far more interesting following her as sort of the need as this alien to reproduce in order for the race to survive. And this is the way they have to do it. And she clearly is the one amongst them that has some moral problems with this, and she's got to wrestle with it. And I would love to have seen a character like that try to figure out, what are we going to do? How am I going to do this? How am I going to feel about doing this? She actually falls for this ridiculous idiot, and you know what I mean, and that complicates things. And I would like to have followed the story, have followed a lot more with that, you know.
yeah, there seems to be so many different ways it could have gone. And maybe the way they went was a little bit safer route, than
Mhm.
taking chances on creating these kind of cool characters that could have could have done more stuff. Like I didn't like that they the whole time, whenever they were like threatened with stuff, that they would just pretend like, oh, we're human.
Mhm.
Like it would have been cooler if they used their alien shit to just get themselves out of trouble.
Because
Right.
that's the other thing that I was thinking of, is that if she and Lily had both been like decent ones, it could have been more like Ginger Snaps, which was another Canadian horror movie, but it would have been, the girls would have been more like them, sort of like anti-heroes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been told more through the aliens' perspectives, of
Instead of werewolves.
I mean, they're not trying to kill these people, as they said. She explains that they're trying to make it work. They just haven't figured it out yet. Experimentation and everything is the only way it's gonna work. And unfortunately, some people have to die in order for them to figure it out, or they need to go to another planet, and it just
Or they could reach out to some scientists on Earth and they could kind of figure something out that way.
Which
That's
they
the other.
really could have played on if they would have had that nerd character like you were talking about
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah.
Yeah, if they had like a real nerdy character, they could have been like this, like the girl, actually no, that wouldn't have worked if she became the thing,
Yeah, she would have to not be an alien, but yeah, Alex would have been the perfect choice for
Alex would have
that.
been the
But
perfect nerdy kind of
that's
girl.
why
Yeah,
I just get this feeling like this was very, very, very first drafty
like
kind
rough
of feel.
draft kind of thing. Yeah. This feels sort of rough now that I'm like talking about, but I don't know. Like, is
You
it a
could
movie I'd
still
watch
like it. You
again?
could still get enjoyment from it, sure. But, there are flaws, plenty of flaws to point out.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And but yeah, I would probably still watch this again. And I would recommend it to people who are into somebody once again, I was looking on Amanda's thing about the decoys, and somebody mentioned Species, which
Yeah.
is sort
Yeah,
of a better
species.
version of this movie,
Yep.
you know.
Natasha
And
Henstridge.
yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think somebody saw Species and said Species in the snow with
Hot
more girls.
blonde aliens with snow.
Yeah. And so they were just like, let's
But
make
the other thing that I was like, this is so moody, right in the beginning when it has the first jump scare, and then immediately there's a transition and it's got this sort of pop punk soundtrack. I'm like, yep, that's the thing that Moody loves. He loves that thing. That was like a
Oh,
big thing in the
I got
90s.
so
It's
excited when I
so
saw it.
90s.
It reminded me of another movie you did not like, Paul, which was Shredder, you know.
A lot of movies did that in the 90s. It was like a staple for for a while.
This is early 2000s, so it's sort of like, the 90s pushed over,
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
Because I always say like decades sort of keep coming, through. Like another decade doesn't actually really start until like 95 or 2005, because
Yeah.
they're still having the remnants of the old decade.
Yeah, clearly they were emulating a lot of the styles that were in the 90s. You
Yeah,
know,
American
Yeah.
Pie and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
this is like American Pie, but with aliens. And maybe if they like leaned more into that
this one
and
time an
more into
alien
the
came.
comedy, I would have liked it a little bit better too. Because if you're gonna have it be a comedy, go full comedy, but don't sort of pussyfoot around the comedy.
Right. They've kind of like met in the middle, and I don't think that it worked for either like genre.
I know it was like, all right, so this is sort of a sci-fi horror comedy, sort of.
So, Amanda, you said that you have done some directing, and have you done cinematography as well?
I have not. I am a people director. I am not very good with technology. I am learning, but I don't know all the technicalities of it, all the details, all the shutter speeds, like that kind of
Okay,
thing.
I only
I
asked because I was wondering what your take on the direction was.
I think that the actors definitely delivered some really good performances. There were a couple of scenes where I was like, I wonder how long it took them to pull that off. Like, I've also been in front of the camera. So, like, for example, in the mausoleum scene, I know the kind of positions that that cameraman would have had to be in to get those angles, and they're not very comfortable positions.
Mm-mm.
No, I mean, because the mausoleum, I think it looked like they shot in the actual mausoleum. They didn't shoot on like a set, or whatever. So
Yeah, it was like an actual mausoleum, and like the camera guy, like the camera angle was like of his face, and like to get that angle, like that poor camera guy's, he's gonna be on top of Gibby.
And so you
yeah,
probably understand that sometimes, in fact, a lot of times, a bad performance isn't necessarily the fault of the actor. A lot of times, that's the fault of the director because
Mhm.
either they didn't see that and or not have a problem with that performance or that particular vocalization or line reading, but sometimes they just don't care. It's like they just get the line out and let's move to the next scene.
Right.
And sometimes I know I've read where a lot of actors were like, hey, I'd like to do another take if we can, just because I didn't
Mhm.
think that was a very good take. And some directors are like, don't worry about it, blah 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 blah.
we'll
You know,
fix
a
it in
lot of
No,
post.
times.
we're very active with our cast. Like we're very much a team. We're very much a family. So like, for example, Jesse Green played the role of Danny in Anarchy, and I love Jesse to death. We are great friends. And he was having a really rough day because he couldn't remember his lines and everything. And he's like, listen, I just don't want to like, I don't want us to rush through it. Like he wanted to make sure that he was able to give that performance and give the lines. And so it was very much a give and take, but we got magic that day once we worked all of that out. So I'm so excited for it.
Was he playing a pirate?
He is not a pirate in this one, although I'm sure that he would have tried to.
R.
We love Jesse. We've so Jesse and a bunch of the Brad Twig and that group of people come
Fuzzy
down.
monkey.
Yeah, Fuzzy Monkey would come down to Scares That Care and hang out with us. So
Yeah.
we love them, and it seems like a lot of that crew works together with everybody. So it's wonderful. We adore every single person like that, Crystal Brocky, and you know
Hmm.
people like that we're all friends with from that group. So
Yeah.
um, now I guess it gets to be about the time where we're gonna do the stinkometer. Unless is there anything else? Did we mention, did we like miss anything? I don't think.
I mean, I might have had a few more gripes, but I think everybody pretty much got my feelings towards this movie at this point.
I can't think of anything else that I want to add. I feel like we covered a lot of different bases on this.
I think like if you've seen the movie, it's on Tubi. If you've seen the movie, you'll understand what we're talking about. I don't think we said anything that was too mean spirited or wrong, but I think like we understood like this was a movie that, yeah, I think there's a movie that was made for sci-fi channel type of thing, and
Mhm.
or they wanted to get it on there, and it was well done as far as like the looks and sound and, all this other stuff. But all right, so we're gonna go into the stinkometer. So the stinkometer is a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being really, really good, and 10 being really, really stinky. Now, usually stinky means that there were a lot of problems with the movie, usually like sound, or like if we can't see it and we can't hear it and we can't, or the acting is so atrocious. Think of like if you've ever seen Tommy Wiseau in The Room, type of
I
thing.
haven't seen that yet, but I've heard so much about it.
You need to see that,
Yes.
Amanda. You
You need
do.
to see that movie.
I'll put
It's
it
so
top
bad.
of my list.
But if you see something like that where it's just so bad, it's so awful, but you're just like, and sometimes we love those things, even though we have to be honest and give it, our score on that. So, you can also do a 0.5, so like 5.5 or 6.5 or something like that if you feel like it's sort of, in the middle from, one number to another. All right, so Paul, I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay, so clearly I had a lot of issues with this film, but again, it almost all comes from the writing and from the poor way that they did the narrative and the characters. If it wasn't for that, like I said, I liked most of the acting. I had no problem with any of that. Most of the production stuff I had no problem with. So um, it's just the damn story. And of course, that's the thing that bugs me the most because that's the cheapest fix. That's the one thing you can do that you don't have to worry about budgeting. Just fix the story. Have a nice linear story that makes sense.
Unless you're paying like a really professional screenwriter, like a big
Yeah,
time
who does
screenwriter,
that?
but the screenwriter was like the director and somebody else. So, it makes no sense. You're right.
Yeah. So yeah, based on that, and of course, also comparing it to other movies, we've definitely seen much worse movies than this. But the plot holes and some of the other things really irritated me. So I'm gonna go with a 7.5.
Oh, okay, wow. That's a lot bigger than I thought. But I liked it more like in that like sense. It was more of my style of movie. I'm gonna have to give it a 6.5. Like because the more we talked about the story, the more I realized there were plot holes and issues and things that should have been fixed in the beginning, And Amanda, I know you're screenwriter and director as well as right. You're a screenwriter too, right?
Yes, that is
Yes.
correct.
So screenwriter, director, all that stuff. The importance of what is it? Making sure the script is good. Before you shoot.
Right. Especially if you're the guy who's both the writer and the director, you need to make certain before you get to the actual production stage that all that stuff is ironed out beforehand.
Mhm.
And even if it means getting another pair of eyes to look at it for you, because that I get the feeling that he didn't do that,
So what Paul is trying to say is if you want Paul to read your script and give you a critique, he charges $100.
No. Not me, it's the continuity monkey. He does that.
All right.
Pay the monkey.
We'll explain the monkey later.
Okay.
Amanda, what would be your score?
I'm going to give it a 6. I agree with you guys on the writing. I think that there is definitely a lot of plot holes. I think they could have done more like character development, more just kind of more in general. But I do really appreciate the quality. Like the lighting was good. I really enjoyed the cinematography. The sound was consistent. It wasn't too loud. It wasn't too quiet. I could see things. So I'm going to give it a 6.
All
Fair.
right. That's a total of 20, which is kind of on the sticky side, but not as bad as some of the ones that we've had. Well, let me see what that would bring up as far as like we have a thing called the ladder of stink, and it
Oh.
shows us what movies are also stinky,
So you go from the bottom, which is your lowest score, to the top, which is your 30s and 30 pluses, which have ascended into stinky heaven.
Oh god, there's a lot.
It's like Jacob's ladder.
There's a lot in the 20s. So A Crack in the Floor, the movie with Mario Lopez and Gary Busey. So that was fun. That got a 20. Another 20 is Killer Tongue, got a 20.
Yeah, that fits about with Killer Tongue, I would say.
Robo Chick got a 20. What?
Oh my
Should that
goodness.
have gotten worse? I don't know.
Robo Chick should have been worse.
The Karaoke Kid got a 20. I think that feels like that's too high. And then Mega Python versus Gatoroid. So, which is I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it's just uber silly. Like it's just a
It
goofy.
sounds like I saw
It's
one called Poseidon Rex that was pretty silly.
well, this one
Yeah,
is this is Tiffany versus Debbie Gibson with a giant CGI snake.
in a CGI gator.
Sold.
Yeah, so it's just silly stuff. But it was more like the idea of bringing those two in there to fight each other,
Gotcha.
or whatever, because whatever. So anyway, yeah, that sounds about right. That's in the right realm of stuff. It's it's up there as being this is should have been better, considering. But I don't know if Paul still would have liked it because it's about teenagers.
I feel like Paul still would not have liked it.
I know, like even if the script was okay or good or whatever, he would have still complained, "Oh, it's just teenagers partying."
I might have complained, but I'd have given it a better score.
Yeah, that's true.
That's fair.
Once again, I was on my hike. I messaged him and I'm like, ooh, or what is it? I said, we still got to read. I'm gonna watch that movie tonight, and he was like, I'm watching it. I'm trying to get through it right now, and I was like, oh God, that means he doesn't like the movie. I was like, I thought you liked it. He goes, no, when did I say that? So now I know he's not a big fan of Decoys, but maybe we'll do Decoys too, and we'll have you back for that.
I'll
I
watch
was
it.
just thinking that.
I'll watch it.
You'll watch part two.
Sure.
I don't think part two um is on Tubi right
Tubi.
now. But because like I said, like you didn't even know they made a part two.
No, I had no idea.
By the way, part two of Decoys called Alien Seduction, by the way, which I'm like, was that the original title
Pretty
of the
much.
movie? Because that's pretty much what it was, Has Luke is back. Then Constance is back.
Oh, I love Constance. I'll watch it just for that.
And then the big name they have is the girl from I think she was from Starship Troopers, Dina Meyer.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay.
she's
That
in
was
this sequel. What
I
were you
like
saying,
Dina Meyer.
Amanda?
I was just saying, okay.
Okay.
You know
Okay,
me and my
we'll watch it.
redheads. I love Dina Meyer.
Starship Troopers is a great alien movie, but it's a cheesy alien. Like
Mhm.
it's better done than this movie, but it's still just as silly and goofy as this movie.
Yeah, Starship Troopers is a perfect example of what I like to call a sort of guilty pleasure, where it's definitely has some problems, but you can't help but like it, enjoy it anyway.
Gotcha.
Big Trouble in Little China is kind of like
Yeah.
that too. It's just silly, but
I
it's so much fun that you can't help but love it.
I don't know. Maybe we'll have to do Big Trouble in Little China for Film Freak someday because I
I think we did.
No, we haven't.
Didn't we? I could have sworn I showed that to. We showed that to Lenore.
You might have showed it to her, but we never did it for
Okay,
the
that's
show.
good.
Yeah.
I want to spring that on someone who's never seen it though. That'll be very interesting.
I showed it to my dad a while back, and he was like, and then I thought he was gonna want to like leave, but he thought it was terrible, but he wanted to know what was gonna happen.
Right. It's ridiculous and over the top and cartoony, but it's so much fun. It's one of my absolute favorite movies from the 80s.
All right. Well, on that note, so Amanda, this episode will be out, I think, around June or July-ish. So it's
Okay.
gonna be a while. What would you say is probably coming out around then that you're working on?
That's coming out like to watch.
Yeah. Like when will Anna Key be out?
So we are actually looking at doing the Anarchy movie premiere around March or April of this year.
Cool.
I'm not sure what we're gonna do for distribution yet, but once I know, I will let you guys know. And obviously, when we do the premiere, it'll be a public event, so we'll be able to have people there. I believe that's the route we're going. Don't quote me on anything, but
And
we're still filming Sevilla 6. That probably won't be out until sometime next year. What else do I have coming out? Heavy Duty Man should be out sometime this year. I don't have a timeline on that yet, though.
And you just got cast in Blood and Breakfast or something? Is that what it was called?
Yes, Blood and Breakfast by
oh
Mark
yeah,
Byrne and Absurd Productions. They are filming. I'm not sure what the timeline on that is yet either. Probably, my guess would be by the end of this year.
Cool.
and I was going to ask, and I asked Moody earlier because Abigail Hendricks, whom I guess is your lead actress in your film, I have seen that face before, and I looked on her IMDb, and I noticed she didn't really hasn't been on a lot. Where have I seen that face before? She seems very familiar.
He definitely has a familiar face. She did some, I believe she did some theater and like she did some sort of like film school and stuff out in Chicago. I'm not sure what else she has done film wise. I believe Anna was her biggest like role so far, but she
Okay,
is a powerhouse and you will be seeing a lot more of her.
she's very pretty.
Yay.
I was very struck by her, so I'm very curious. I can't wait to see your film.
She's very, very talented. They all were.
Okay, sounds great. And Moody says that it's not a horror movie; it's a drama.
That is correct. It is not a horror movie. It is a drama. It is something that when everybody watches it, they're going to be like, I can relate to this. I can relate to that. It's, it's going to be good.
It's great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love it. I'm like so excited for you guys. So, I
Yeah,
think you
hopefully
guys are doing
it'll
a lot of stuff.
come out on Amazon or something so we can get copies of it.
Mhm.
We have some plans. We got to finalize them.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people think making movies like takes like 4 months or something. You're done and then it's out and available. And no, making
So
movies takes a lot longer.
Just
And
getting them
it's,
distributed is 5 to 6 months.
yeah, it takes so much energy, so much organization. There's so much that goes into making a film, to the script itself, to just doing a call sheet. I actually just announced my own production company. It's called Dancing Demons Media Group.
Sweet.
And we're going to focus a lot on helping newer directors, newer filmmakers with those resources and that support that I feel like a lot of us don't have and didn't get. So that's my big goal for this year.
Outstanding.
I want everybody to be successful, and they can't do that if they don't have the things that they need to do it.
And where are you guys headquartered out of?
Central Pennsylvania.
Okay, so like how close to like say Lock Haven and God, what is the where the um God, what was that TV show that everyone loved?
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, no, gosh, I can't remember anything
I'm
anymore.
closest to Harrisburg, but we do travel.
Harrisburg, that's
Yeah,
what I meant. The
Yeah.
Office.
The Office.
that's
Yeah.
not Harrisburg, but I'll give it to you.
Where was that? I thought that was Ohio or something.
It takes place in Scranton, Pennsylvania, which is
Scranton.
about 2 hours north or so of Harrisburg.
Okay. That makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah, I've done a lot of projects. In fact, I had one in, I don't know if you know, Lock Haven, Pennsylvania. Guess
I've been
that's
there.
about an hour or so north.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, so I know somewhat that area.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll go through whenever we travel. We travel to Kentucky and we went through like Pennsylvania and West Virginia and all that area. And
Mhm.
that's where a lot of these people are from: Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Maryland, that area. So
Yeah,
everybody
that's like
works with each
the
other.
entire independent film community over here is like Pennsylvania and not Delaware, Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia. It's like everybody.
So what about Dave Wiscovich? Do you guys know him? He's also Pennsylvania.
I don't recognize the name, but I'd like to.
He made a little movie called Suburban Sasquatch.
I feel like I should know that.
Good.
Yeah.
It's great. It's
He
wonderful.
also made a movie called Fungicide. It's about killer mushrooms.
my favorite. And yeah,
That's great.
it's not it's what is it? Something Moon.
Oh, Trouble Moon production.
Troubled Moon Productions. Yeah, they made like
Okay.
7 or 8 movies.
I'll have to check
Yeah.
them out. We have it's not my film. He goes by Bone Johnson. He's got a film coming out in February called The Legend of Crigfoot. So that's going to be a super fun thing for everybody too.
Nice.
Is that a Bigfoot kind of thing?
Kind of.
You don't know?
Well, I had a very small role in it, and I don't know what I'm allowed to say and not allowed to say.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody look for that one, and then you'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I'm like,
just
wait.
go watch it. Bring your hot dogs, get comfy.
Sounds
Yes.
good. Well, if you guys have a website that you want us to promote, make sure you pass it on to us, and we'll include it for this
I'm going to be
episode.
sending you all kinds of things.
Sounds good.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. This was awesome. We loved having you on here and talking about the decoys, which once again I didn't see, but it looked like something that was up my alley, and it sort of was, and not up Paul's alley. But I always love to kind of torment him. He torments me all the time. This
Oh yeah.
wasn't that bad. This was not bad of torment. It's just not as bad. I showed him once this movie called 8 Days a Week,
Ugh.
and oh man, that was the
I'm not
worst
a fan.
thing for him. And sort of was a little cringy for me too. Like when you look at movies from like the 90s, sometimes some of the things they did, the one will not fly these days. You know, like the dude literally decides, like the whole basis of the plot is that the dude is going to sit outside this girl's house, Carrie Russell's, by the way, Carrie Russell's house for every day until she fell in love with him.
That's
Yeah, that
not
definitely
creepy.
won't fly.
No, like I'm sure if a guy did that for you, you'd be like, I'm calling the cops and
Listen, my neighbors shoot on site, so just don't get any ideas, y'all.
there you
On the other
go.
hand, I showed Moody Pink Flamingos.
There's
But
a
I liked
movie
it.
called Pink Flamingos.
What?
There's a movie called Pink Flamingos.
Yeah.
John
I
Waters.
need to know about this.
Yes, it's
I think you should.
it's a pretty rough movie, It's got some really cringy, disgusting stuff in it.
Okay, great.
Yeah. But if you know who John Waters is, he's
It
famous.
made Moody hide in the couch and pull his shirt up over his face.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, and it was funny because we watched it with our friend Kate Phoenix, and
Mhm.
I don't think she had seen it yet, and
loved it.
she loved it, but I think she loved more like my reaction the whole time,
Probably.
and everything, which she loved watching me watch it. more
Jonathan's
than
kind of an innocent when it comes to these sorts of things.
I mean, there's
Gotcha.
some things I don't want to see, and stuff. So I mean, even Jackie was talking about how that's not something. The way I told her about it, she was, nope, So it's pretty bad.
It's an interesting movie, and if you want to talk indie movies, that's John Waters.
Yeah.
Noted.
All right. I feel like we're giving you a little bit of a like film history here. So
I'm not upset about it. I am not
Yeah.
upset about it.
I wasn't sure how much you knew about our show, if you had ever heard any of our episodes, or if you knew anything about us, or what style of show that we do, or what kind of movies that we talk about. I didn't really know. I didn't know what Moody told you.
He told me that I needed to be on Zoom at this time, this date.
And I think I told you about the steakometer beforehand. So
Yeah,
you
I'm sure
sort of
that
do that.
we've had this conversation before because we were going to do an episode, I guess you call it an episode, but scheduling conflicts happened and we weren't able to do it. So now we finally got to do it. So
Yeah.
I had a very basic crash course.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm doing
Yeah,
it here in Bakersfield where I'm staying for a little bit and then leaving tomorrow. So I was like, all right, let me
I
get
know we're still on vacation. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still on vacation, chilling here, but like I don't view this as not like work or anything. This is
Right. This is fun.
this is enjoyable. Watching a movie and then reviewing it is like fun for me, or
Right.
whatever. But, once it starts becoming work, I'll probably be annoyed by it,
But if you're
Yeah.
familiar with Mystery Science Theater 3000 or Riff Tracks, anything like that, we kind of frame ourselves as the group that will do the movies that even they won't do.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I like that. I like that.
Or like Red Letter Media, sometimes we'll do ones that are like similar to what they'll do, but sometimes we'll even go further down. I don't think they're gonna do a movie called Sex Squatch, like
We
Right.
did.
yeah. But they won't touch Decoys either because this isn't that bad,
No, it's not
the
bad enough
best
for
of the
them.
worst, and
Yeah.
stuff. So, but I like that because we don't do just like the worst of the worst movies, we do sort of the, some movies. I viewed it as we started Indie Film Cafe to just watch movies that we loved and enjoyed and we grew up on, whether they were bad or good or whatever.
Mm.
And this is a movie that I've been wanting to see for a long time.
And the good thing is that we span different kind of generations because we're both different generations. So he knows the 90s and 2000s and on up kind of movies. And I
Right.
know some of that, but I know a lot more 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s kinds of movies because that was
So you
my
get a whole
stuff.
nice little mix.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
like
we
that.
did a movie called Reptilicus, and that was like a 50s, 60s movie.
1960.
Yeah, so that was Paul, because he finds those movies. I don't think I've ever done one of those because, I let Paul pick those, that's
Yeah.
his domain.
Although it's not exactly true because remember, one of the things we see eye to eye on is Ed Wood, and we
That's true.
definitely do all the Ed Wood movies. And
I was allowed to do all the Ed Wood movies because, that's more my guy. As long I can't do any of the Donald G. Jackson movies you do. So, that's your
or Ray Dennis Steckler.
yeah, I can't touch. There's some filmmakers I'll let him have, but then there'll be some that will have like a medium between,
Right.
and everything. So you kind of caught a weirder episode because like, hey, I've never seen it. So I didn't even know whether or not this was going to be good. There's a couple
Right.
of that's going to happen this year.
But if you go to our website, I mean, we're on season 7 now, and there's a whole list that you can go down with all the years and all the different movies. And
Okay.
I highly recommend. I mean, a lot of the episodes they're just a lot of fun, especially the worse the movie is. It seems to
I could
generate
imagine.
a whole lot more discussion and a whole lot more humor because of that.
Sometimes.
Usually.
Actium Maximus, that was the one that was the shortest review we've ever done.
That was you.
That was me, and I wanted to get off that review because I didn't want to talk about it anymore. Like
It was that bad, or
it was that bad. It was one of
Oh.
the so there's a few that like that should have been a 30 plus, and that was my fault. Because I thought
Yes, it
Paul
was, sir.
wouldn't have picked a movie that would have given me a 10 in the first episode back for the next season, The second season.
gotcha. Okay.
I didn't think you would give me a 10, so I didn't want to like say, okay, this is the start of the season of like, so I gave it a 9.5. I think, it should deserve it.
Same thing with Barn of the Blood Llama. You gave that a 9.5.
I think so, but I don't think I'd prefer Barn of the Blood Llama to Actium Maximus.
Oh, me too.
Now, I told you we're Amanda and I are friends with Matt Skinner, and he's been looking for what's the worst movie of all time, basically, and everything. What's my worst film I've ever seen? So far, right now, it's Hip Hop Locos.
That's bad. It's
Yeah,
really
no,
bad.
that was
I mean,
that.
just the name alone sounds bad.
What?
Worse than Miss
Just the name
Werewolf, huh?
alone sounds bad.
Yeah. Have you you've never even heard of that one, right? I'm
I
sure.
have not. No.
It's rough. I think it's on Tubi. So
I will find out.
And,
oh
and
God,
that's
oh God.
the other
Bring
thing.
somebody with you.
That's
like
the other thing
Shannon.
about
Make
me
Shannon
and
watch
Mooney.
it or something because you can't be alone.
Yeah.
You will just turn it off.
My mom will probably watch it with me. I don't know if that's good or bad for her though.
I don't know if you want your mom to watch it,
No.
but
Oh, it's one of those. Okay.
it's
that's-
not like
They've watched a lot of weird shit
Nothing
with me,
actually
so
happens. It's very boring.
it's very
it's very
boring.
boring.
It's more a movie you talk to people through. That's what we
Gotcha.
do.
Okay.
That's
you
the
know.
other thing about me and Moody is that we're both super nerdy collectors. So we both have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of movies. So yeah, this show could go on for 50 years.
Forever.
Forever. And it might. Who knows? I mean, for as long as we can do it, you know.
My list of movies I want to talk about is so incredibly long. It's painful sometimes.
And sometimes we do it where we don't show each other the movie beforehand. So sometimes we step on each other's movies that we have planned to do at some point or whatever. Because
Which
our
happens.
our lists have crossed, you know, or whatever. But I mean, most of the time Paul picks stuff I've never heard of.
Like
Yeah.
Midget Zombie Takeover. That was one
But I
that we
let you
both.
have that one.
Yeah, you did. I was appreciative of that.
Yeah, because he wanted to do that. He was like, "Oh, I was gonna do it." I was like, "You know, do it," and then we hated it. And then,
But yeah,
and then
that
neither of
that's
us wanted to claim it. But
that's the other thing is I really like to pick the obscure ones that are out there.
Mhm.
So just to bring them to light, especially if I find a lot of delight in them, either because they're actually pretty good or they're extremely terrible.
Oh, terrible.
yeah, like they're the worst of the worst for real.
Yeah.
Hip Hop Locos was there, man. Like that was
Told you we had to rip the scab off. We had to get that one done because it was on the list.
it's rough.
Now you never have to see it again.
Yeah. So, and then he's got other ones that he plans to
Oh
tour.
yeah.
But
Oh
so,
yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if that will be my one as my worst favorite later, but it'd be Miss Werewolf. I'd rather watch Miss Werewolf than watch Hip Hop Locos again. You
Yeah,
know.
Miss Werewolf is cute. It's terrible, but it's cute.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll introduce you to some more, sure, if you want to come back. You
If you
know.
want
I'd
to come
love to
back,
come back. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to.
yay.
Yes. Yay. We'd love to
Yeah.
have you. So everybody, thank you guys so much for joining us in this episode. Join us next week. I'm not sure if it's gonna be mine or Paul's yet, but we'll see. We have it all. It's scheduled down, so we'll figure it out. But
We'll figure it out.
yeah, but you guys will see whatever's next. So
Yeah,
anyway,
the
thank you
monkey
guys.
keeps us straight.
Yes. Thank you guys for checking this out, and thank you, Amanda. God, I almost called you Megan.
Listen, you are fine. I had a boyfriend that called me Megan more than he called me Amanda, so it is totally
What?
fine. Yeah.
Because you go by Amanda Megan, or
Yeah. I've had people actually ask me if that's actually my last name.
Did you
No.
ever ask somebody ask you if they could call you Amanda Hug and Kiss?
Oh, all the time. I get that all the time. I get all kinds of weird things.
Thanks to The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Yeah. She
Thank you.
probably gets it now. She's just like, oh, you know,
Yeah, I'm used to it.
God,
Wow.
I'm sure there. If does anybody? Okay, my biggest question is: anybody ever call you Mandy?
Yes.
Like, is that like a fun name for you, or do you not like it?
No, I like it. I like being called Mandy. Most of my friends from college called me Mandy. I did have some friends from high school that called me Mandy, but my locker partner in high school was also Mandy. So we had to spell them two different ways. So we knew whose like notes were whose notes and like whose stuff was whose stuff.
Were you the Y or the I?
I was the I.
Okay.
So
Ah.
you could do Mandy with the eye. The
Did you
haunted
guys
doll.
do like rock paper scissors for it, or did you just say I'll be the I?
I decided to be the I because she had already gone by Mandy with the Y. So I was like, this works. It's fine.
Okay. That's
And if you were
cute.
like
We didn't
dressed
even know
up
you.
all gothy, you could be the evil eye.
Yeah.
The Killer Eye.
There
That's a
you
movie
go.
we're planning to do one day.
Yes, definitely got to do the.
I know
full
Paul wants to
ride.
do it, so
Great movie.
I'm gonna let him handle that one. But that's
Yeah.
it's a terrible movie, but it's fun.
But fun.
Yeah. Kind of like the exact opposite of this, like where it's bad, but it's fun instead of it's good, but it's bad. You know. Like
Yeah.
you know. So anyway, well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and join us next week. Until then, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.